It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. What a day I had yesterday in Washington, D.C. Again, another one of those moments where I get to do kind of fun things with this. We held an event with Sarah Nelson, the president of the AFA-CWA, the Flight Attendants Union, and also with Ohio Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur, and it was one of these wonderful moments of just being able to talk about the things that are important, moving the country forward, how we're going to rebuild a prosperous working class. There's so much, how we were going to message. Just an incredible opportunity to get in a room full of like-minded folks and say, hey, how are we gonna go forward? And look, point at the Republican Party, who has been, well, less than useful, to be quite frank, less than useful. And this is one of these moments. I look at today. Today, the news was all about Hunter Biden. The news was all about non-human biological pilots from crashed crafts. Yes, the UFO whistleblower took all of the. So my congressman got all into this because we got to get to the bottom of it. Americans have every right to know the full scope of UAPs, UFOs. The claims today, while sensible, while sensational, have come from very credible witnesses. Scott Perry, my congressman, says, all with military experience and high security clearances, we need and deserve to know what we're dealing with. And look, this is all fun. This is all good. It's all games. Look, are there Martians or aliens flying around? I don't know. Here's what I do know. I do know working people are struggling to make ends meet. I do know people are still struggling to put food on the table. I do get that. So the sideshow that has become the Republican governance in the House, I guess this is much better than actually doing your job. It's much easier to play, midnight talk host than it is to actually have a plan, which, by the way, the guy sitting in the White House seems to be doing a pretty good job. You've got Jelly Bucket Joe out there doing the work. He tweeted out today, by investing in American manufacturing, we're seeing the rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in the U.S. And by the way, those jobs, the jobs that Republicans love to talk about creating. Biden also points out that right now we have the lowest inflation rate among the G7. Wages are growing faster than inflation, job satisfaction at a 36-year high, and the share of working-age Americans in the workforce is the highest it's been in 20 years. It's no accident. It's my plan. And look, I agree with him. It is the plan. It's what we've been saying on this show for years. We need to be investing in infrastructure. We need to be reshoring manufacturing. This is not new and should not be news to anyone. And when you have a low inflation, when you have lower inflation rates, when you have lower unemployment, you have workers who start going, hey, wait a second. Those profits, we'd like some. All those profits that we create, we'd like some, which is why, looking at the Teamsters agreement with UPS, while, I've had some people go, well, it's not enough, is historic. I mean, the fact that they got rid of the two-tier wage system is huge. The fact that, the raises that they've got look pretty good from the outside. It'll be interesting to see what the membership does. This could be a moment, because the responses I've got are, no, we want better. This could be a John Deere moment where the membership says it's not enough. And that comes from having the ability to say, you know what? We're worth something. Now, what's interesting is I happen to see that Jim Cramer guy on CNBC, that the guy who makes all the noises and hit stuff and all that, he was talking about the Teamster UPS deal, and he goes, "Well, it looks like the Teamsters got the best of UPS," and they then went in to talk about Ford and the concern he had for the automakers, because he really truly cares about the automakers. And he said something that caught my attention. He said that the UAW, the United Auto Workers, and their new president, Sean Fain, what was the quote that he used? Are more like the 1930s UAW, which we don't want. And my question went, what we are we talking about? Because I do want the kind of militancy that built the most prosperous working class in the history of civilization. Yes, bring me some of those 1930s union members, some of those people who were willing to have sit-down strikes, some of those people who were willing to get out in the streets and shut things down. Give me those folks. Because here's the thing, and this is the important part of this. While I'm looking at Biden and I'm saying, policy-wise, moving in the right direction, doing smart stuff, thrilled with that, a lot of people are still struggling. Workers are still not getting the wages, the benefits, the conditions that they earn. The share of wealth being created by every hour of working people's efforts not being shared. And that comes back to not having the kind of bargaining power that the Teamsters had at UPS. That doesn't translate across all industries. And for me, this is where I keep going. We're in a moment. They keep talking about hot labor summer. Yeah, there's a lot of people saying enough is enough. And that is a good thing. It's something we should want. Especially now that we're seeing reports that inflation's coming down. Wages are actually up. And this is a good thing. Now, what Republicans are doing, interestingly enough, and you knew this was coming, because they can't attack Biden anymore on, inflation's too high. Gas is $16 a gallon, and eggs are a gazillion dollars. They can't do that anymore. They can't tout their policies because they don't have anything. They're talking about UFOs. That's the best they've got, UFOs. Your party is devoid of any ideas when we got to look into UFOs. When there are literally kids going to bed hungry in this country, we got veterans on the streets, we've got problems, and a broken government that refuses to address it. And this is why, again, you may think, well, the Democrats are terrible. Look, they're trying, man. The reality is they've got policies that they're moving forward on. They got ideas on how we're going to reunionize, regrow, reunite this country. For instance, Bernie Sanders and Bobby Scott, the congressman from Virginia, senator from Vermont, congressman from Virginia, they've come forth with the Raise the Wage Act. It's back again. And now not just 15, they want $17 an hour. And the right is losing their mind. My inbox full of all of the right-wing think tanks telling me, it's the end of humanity. We're going to lose, here in Pennsylvania where I live, 130,000 jobs across the country, some 500,000. We're going to lose jobs. Like, they care. That's the part that gets me. Because they probably do, because these are the jobs that they say are, the restaurant jobs, the cleaning up after rich people jobs, the low wage jobs that, mostly women and people of color do. Yeah, we can't help them. Now, understand, they don't care about the $17 an hour at the bottom. As I've said before, they care about that ripple upward, that money that's gonna, every working person who's making 15, 16, 17, 18 bucks an hour are going to go, hey, if the minimum wage is now from $7.25 to $17, we want a bump. That's what they're afraid of. That means profits are going to have to go down a little bit, and they're going to have to share, and they don't like sharing. Not even a little bit, which is why, again, the Jim Cramers of the world, the right-wing think tanks of the world are all going, be afraid of these wage increases. Be afraid of these unions. These unions, they're bad. Because heaven forbid we have a labor movement like the 1930s that evolved into the movement of the 40s, 50s, and 60s that saw the broadest shared prosperity across the board. Heaven forbid we do that, and heaven forbid you have workers who have the kind of economic power that allows them to have some political power that would say, hey, maybe we raise taxes on rich people. And oh, by the way, the Oligarch Act is something we're going to talk about today. So I got a lot to get to. I want to take your calls. We're going to take a quick break. Right back after that. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people from the talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The new CHIPS bill that got passed will bring jobs back home and has already resulted in big announcements of major new factories opening. The American Recovery Package has allowed cities and counties to hire new police officers and firefighters and start rebuilding their communities again. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and DC government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt. But I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
I gotta tell you, I remember when I was a kid, they used to play that game Hot Lava. You remember that when you were a kid? Where you couldn't step on the ground, you had to like step on rocks or something because, hey, the lava was flowing. I saw a story over at CNN, caught my attention. Evidently in Arizona, as we speak, it's so hot that doctors are treating patients who are burned, literally burned, because they fell on the ground. They just fell. And by the time they got back up, burns. It's not fun anymore. It's not funny, I don't think. Anyway, let's go to the phones. We got Michael in Chicago on line one. Michael, how are you? We got you there, Michael?
Oh, pretty good. Could you hear me?
Yeah, listen to the phone, not to your radio.
Yeah, I like to talk about ranked choice voting.
What's on your mind?
Now, I think ranked choice voting is a better way to vote.
Okay.
In traditional voting, you only get one vote, one little tiny vote, even though 6 or 7 or 8 people are running for the district. You only get one vote. In ranked choice voting, you get 5 votes, 5 good votes. Your first place vote, second place vote, and so forth. And you have a better chance to influence the election. Now, in ranked choice voting, there's no need for an expensive runoff election. That's not necessary. One election will do the job. Now, many people will use their first choice vote as a protest vote or to vote for a third-party candidate or vote for their own identity, their own racial or ethnic identity. And that's okay. But then you have your second and third place vote, and that would be for a candidate with a more broader appeal. So you could do both things with ranked choice voting. You could do a protest vote, get that out of the way, and then you could vote for buying the more moderate candidate who probably will win. Now, ranked choice voting is real good. It's coming to many cities now. I want to just list a few of the big cities that have ranked choice voting and are successful in using it. San Francisco, Oakland, Minneapolis and St. Paul, and Seattle, Washington voted on it and got it approved. Portland, Oregon, and Salt Lake City. Now, I live in Chicago, Illinois. The only jurisdiction we have that approved it is Evanston, Illinois, a small suburb, but that's a start. And I think it's a better way to vote, and it will get more people voting. Nowadays, a lot of people don't vote. We had a big election in Chicago for mayor. It was a huge election. The television was loaded with campaign ads, and that's good. But only 35 or 38% of the people came out to vote because 9 people were running in the first election for the mayor of Chicago, and you only had 1 vote. And a lot of people felt their 1 vote wouldn't do any good. But if you had 5 votes, you have a better chance to influence the election.
Now, just so we're clear, you've said
that all the cities.
Right. But Michael, just so we're clear, because you've said you now have 5 votes. And I know my conservative listeners, our heads are exploding because they think you're going to get 5 votes. You really get 1 vote. You get 5 choices. You get 5 swings at the ball before you make your final vote, right? You're voting once for your first choice, your second choice, your third choice. There's a process by throwing some of the stuff out, in candidates out, and recalculating. But your vote only counts once. Correct?
Yeah, for a state representative.
Yes.
You see, nowadays more people are running, more candidates are running for these positions. There used to be only 2 or 3. Now there's 5, 6, 7, 8 people running. For state representative in the primary, Democratic primary, let's say 7, 8 people are running for that one position, state representative. Well, you have 5 votes. You could vote for 5 of them out of the 8, you see. And it's one position, state representative, but you have 5 chances at swinging the bat, like you said.
Yeah.
So as more people get accustomed to it and learn how to vote, and they learn how to vote in San Francisco and Minneapolis, they're skilled at it, it'll be more popular. The only downside of, if I have to play devil's advocate is a sense, and what could be negative about ranked choice voting is that some of the elderly people say it's too confusing, it's too complicated, the 5 votes and how to sort them out. But the real problem is that the ballot is so long. That's the problem. But that's been around for 30, 40 years. You have to vote for 30, 40, 50 candidates in an election for all the various things. That's what the problem. It isn't ranked choice voting. It's the computer system. It's on the computer. But nowadays, more and more people, including the elderly, know how to use computers.
There you go.
Well, if you go to buy food, gasoline, everything, you got to do it on the computer. And they're more accustomed to it. So even the elderly people are accustomed to using a computer and on the election situation.
There you go.
Ranked choice voting.
Nope, good stuff. Appreciate it.
People, if we institute ranked choice voting, you can.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
the thoughts.
Just
one person. If you don't believe in voting for all 5 of them.
Gotcha. Gotcha. No, this is good. I mean, I'm with you. I think it's a good idea, Michael.
Louder, I can't hear you.
I think it's a good idea. Keep pushing it out there. And I know there's an organization that we just had a woman on the program just the other day talking about Illinois and ranked choice voting. So I'm right there with you, buddy. I appreciate the call, though. I got to move along. No, look, at the end of the day, I'm all in favor of this. The idea that I'm going to be able to go to the polls and I'll be able to vote my conscience, the first person I want. And if that person doesn't get 50% plus 1, my second choice is then tallied. And then if that person doesn't get 50% plus 1, then my third, my fourth, and as he said, however many down the line you need to get till you get to 50% plus 1. Because the goal is to have someone in that hall of power who has the majority of votes on their side. And this is where instant runoff voting, ranked choice voting, whatever you're going to call it, for me has always been a smart policy. So as Michael said, it's something good to pursue. Let's go to the phones. I got Kurt on line 2. Kurt, how you doing, buddy?
Well, thanks, Rick, for taking my call, and I'm glad that you enjoyed your trip in D.C. and also with my brother's Congresswoman, Marcy Kaptur, yesterday.
No, she was fabulous.
Yeah, she's been around for 11 billion years, as far as I can remember.
Is that an actual number? 11 billion?
It's a Stephanie Miller number, I think.
Oh, okay. I've never heard that before.
Okay, but anywho, you were talking about rich people, and you were saying, and I was on the phone with your screener when you were talking about this. You were talking about how the rich people in Pennsylvania are saying, "Oh, jobs are going to be gone because with all this union jobs and everything, we're going to have to pay people more, and that means no more jobs." Blah blah blah. Well, if you remember, we had a 65% union membership back in the great socialist Republican presidential days of Dwight Eisenhower.
Yep.
Okay. I don't seem to remember wealthy people crying about paying their employees higher union wages. In fact, all they had to do, my gosh, they had to give up maybe one extra yacht instead of having two, they had one, or instead of two summer homes, they had one. So basically what these people today seem to be doing is they're kind of like poor people hoarding garbage. They want to just hoard the money for themselves, in a sense.
Yep. There's no surprise in that. If you give them the chance to hoard, they're going to.
Oh, absolutely. But it just comes down to, if you pay your people a decent wage, that means we're going to have more money coming into the tax system. It comes down to you need to start investing in people like we did after World War II up until Ronald Reagan. And as you know, I've actually been reading a book called Over Here, How the GI Bill Transformed the American Dream. For every $1 that you and I, as a taxpayer, put into that program of the GI Bill, we got a $7 return on that investment. What Republican in this world, well, I shouldn't say this world because we know what kind of Republicans, but I'm saying what person in this world wouldn't want to get a $7 return on their $1 investment?
Clearly somebody who doesn't want government to work. This is the weird thing. We've got people who are more than happy to tell us government doesn't work, and then they set out to break things, which is why we were talking about UFOs today, Kurt. We weren't talking about how to make lives better. We're talking about UFOs.
Oh, yeah, but let me tell you this real quick. I was actually born with cataracts, so I was rendered legally blind for life. I grew up in a decent home. My father was a union man. We had great Cadillac insurance, never had to pay a dime for it for 40 years. However, I was able to go through the Bureau of Services for the Visually Impaired in Stark County, Ohio, to have them pay for my college education, my room and board, all that, books, all that stuff,
right,
to go to Kent State. They wouldn't even look at me unless I sat down with a caseworker and said, you need to come up with a long-term plan before we do anything to pay for your schooling, which, by the way, you have to maintain, and I thought this was generous, you have to maintain at least a 2.0 GPA in order for us to pay 100% of your schooling in order for you to take this benefit. I made sure I had a 3.0. But what I'm getting at is my state, my community, they invested in me. And the day that I graduated from college was the day I got the job that I'm in presently, and that was 21, almost 22 years ago. So they invested in me to the point where I'm able to generate tax dollars to put back into my state and my community so that people who may need to benefit from that type of service can do so as well.
Yep, that's how it's supposed to work.
It does work.
Yep.
What's that?
That's how it's supposed to work.
Exactly. That's exactly how it's supposed to work, and I think people kind of forgot about that.
Kurt, I appreciate the call, man. Good story, good stuff. Thanks so much. Look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
No, look, this is how this is supposed to work. You pay taxes to help the helping hand up, not the hand out, hand up. And those, I love hearing stories like that. But real quick, check out fairvoteillinois.org. For what's going on in the Chicago area and in Illinois around the idea of ranked choice voting and instant runoff voting. We had one of their statewide organizers on the program sometime when we were at Netroots. We could probably dig that up at some point, but she was fabulous. But fairvoteillinois.org, the website, if you want more information on ranked choice voting in Illinois. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around.
Indigenous people have been saying that we feel a shift in the climate for decades. Climate change is here. The time is now to pass the torch on to the next generation of clean energy warriors. We need to put the land back to work for our people. That means creating jobs for them to live and thrive in our communities. The time is now. Congress must invest in clean energy.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And the Teamsters pushed a lot so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right-left or red-blue, when they are and always have been up-down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.